transform our mind. But a lot of times people are just so busy doing so much. It's almost like we're on autopilot. I cracked that joke many times, having traveled around many parts of the world, whether it's California or New York or Toronto or Singapore or Colombo. So many times I don't see anybody. At least I don't see any human beings. All I ever see is human goings, human doings, very rarely human beings. And to be able to transform our mind is wonderful training to stop going somewhere, to stop doing things and learn how to be. And when we are, then we can see what's around us. We can feel our body. We know our capabilities. We know what's around. And then we can do something which is effective in our world. And so that's one of the reasons why that planning for the future, it's one of the great lessons which COVID has taught us. But all the plans we had for our future, how many of them turned out right? And how many went totally wrong? And of course, most of them went totally different direction. And we can cause so much stress and suffering to ourselves by planning for the future when it doesn't work out the way we expected. Just I told this story to some visitors a couple of days ago. One of my earliest memories was when I was maybe 6 or 7 years of age. And my mother announced to me that I did not need to go to school the following morning. Yay, I don't have to go to school, I remember thinking, because you have to go to the dentist instead. Oh, that's not fair. At that time, I hated the dentist. If you can remember dentists about 60 years ago, wow, it was like going to a torture chamber for a little kid. They had all these needles and all these pliers and these sharp things to scratch stuff out of your gap between your teeth. Even though the dentist was very kind and gentle, but still it was very scary looking for a young boy. So I started crying. I'd rather go to school. No, I'm not going to go to the dentist. I threw a tantrum. And my mother said, look, you've got to go to the dentist tomorrow. That's it. So I went to my bed. I never slept well that night. I was just really upset and started trying to plan, how can I get out of going to the dentist in the morning? And my main plan was to use psychology. Even a 6 or 7-year-old knew some psychology. I told my mother, Mother, you don't love me, do you? You don't really love me. Any real mother who loved her kid would never send him to the dentist. But of course, my mother dragged me to that dentist, dragged me kicking and screaming most of the way. And when I got to the dentist's surgery, I still remember this. On the door of the dentist's surgery, there was a sign. All appointments closed today, cancelled, because the dentist was sick. And that really sort of was something I remembered even as a young 6 or 7-year-old, that all that worry and concern was for nothing, because the dentist was sick and couldn't do that appointment that day. And it just told me that just please plan in a moment, or just don't plan at all. It's even better, and just have that confidence to respond to every moment with a clear, open, kind mind, and then whatever happens will usually turn out to be fine and well. But sometimes that people are too scared not to plan. They're too worried what other people think of you. And a lot of times you may be meeting somebody and you're worried what they may think of you. And if you really ask them, they're worried what you think of them. So we're all worried about each other, never putting much time and our focus on what we're doing for ourselves, where we are right now, how we feel. And get that correct first. Transform your own mind first before you can transform other people's mind. And how can you transform a mind? I like that word transform. because we've just been building a new office over in Bodhinyana Monastery, and some of the lights there are the low 12-volt lights, and we have to transform the energy to make sure it suits those lights. So transforming the mind, using the idea of electrical transformers, is actually get the right energy flowing through your mind. And to get the right energy flowing through your mind, not too much force. Otherwise, you get too much energy, you blow fuses in your brain. In other words, you get stress. And to me, it's quite obvious to see some people that are working so hard and they just can't stand it much longer. And they get stressed out and they get diseases. Even like, with the COVID, that sometimes, why do some people get that disease and some people don't? It's not just exposure to the virus. There is something else which goes on there. And that's, I would love to see more of the research going into, why does it affect? Why do some viruses, sicknesses, illnesses affect some people more than others? It's not just physiological. There's some emotional stuff there as well, which really helps people become more resilient. And of course, that resilience, one of the examples which I've used, I thought was a pretty good example, was a simile of the guitar string. You can imagine I haven't got a guitar string here, obviously. But what I have got here, I've got a little rubber band. I don't know if you can see it. And I stretch the rubber band really tight. It's in stress. It's in tension. It's like suffering. It's not in its normal state. It's being pulled apart. And if something hits it, I'm sorry I haven't got a third hand. If something hits it, it'll make a sound. Bing! And if you lessen the tension on it, loosen it, if something hits it, it still makes a sound, but not so high-pitched and not so loud. If you let it totally go, to let go, the rubber band is so loose, something hits it, it makes no sound at all. That's my simile for resilience. When sometimes people are so stretched, they're so taut, they're so busy going somewhere, carrying stuff from the past, they're stretched over time. And they've just got no power in their minds. They need to relax, let go, to transform, and then they find that they get loose and things hit them in life. Whether it's a virus, it doesn't even register. The immune system kicks in and stops it. They got disappointments in life. Oh, well, it's a disappointment. We can learn and grow from that. If it's any other difficulty, tragedy in life, I just remember just talking to some people who just lost their family members recently. Just a young lady who just tripped in the garden and hit her head on a hard surface, and that was the end of her. It was just an accident. In perfectly good health before, and then she died. And of course, how can one have resilience there? And every one of you, at least most of you, probably experience that death sometimes. And the story which I use, which is a powerful one, it worked for me and it works for others, is to look at life like a concert. And when the concert's over, do you cry that the concert is finished? You won't hear those musicians ever again? No, of course not. You feel what a wonderful privilege that was to have been there at the time. How lucky I was to hear some amazing performers, which I've heard in my life. That's before I became a monk. And I felt blessed. I felt benefited from that. Not sad. I never cried after a great concert. And the music always stayed with me. Always remember that as wonderful moments. Inspiring, uplifting, beautiful. They never go. So it's a different way of looking at what sometimes people feel are tragedies in life. And also that sometimes that when a death or calamity happens, why is it that people always want to blame somebody? I make mistakes, you make mistakes, and the world makes mistakes, and we try to do our best. Well, I've got great faith in human beings. We always try to do our very best. We just need to have more encouragement and just a little bit more leeway. When we make a mistake, not to be afraid of owning up to our mistakes, so we can admit our mistakes and learn from them. And that way, that our mind grows in wisdom. When we hide our mistakes and think, oh, I didn't do that, that was not me, that was somebody else. When we hide our mistakes, why do we do that? We should never be ashamed of making mistakes and just say sorry. It's just a wonderful thing in life when you see someone just admitting that, oh, they were in error. And they go up to someone and say, I'm sorry I did that. I made a big mistake. Please forgive me. And they're sincere about it. It's one of the beautiful parts of it being a human being. It's almost like a part of love and kindness. In fact, that type of forgiveness is such a beautiful way of transforming a mind, simply because it doesn't just hide things under the carpet. That's what denial does. Forgiveness is our honesty. It's holding up to the fact that you weren't perfect, and that when you own up to your imperfections and you reflect on them, you learn from them, you grow from them, you tend not to make those mistakes again. You learn. That's one of the wonderful things of forgiveness. And I'm not sure if this family is listening today, but many, many years ago, I had the privilege of doing my first celebrity wedding for a TV star over in Malacca, in Malaysia. And I don't do that many celebrity weddings. And sometimes when I meet a TV star, I don't know who the heck they are because I don't watch TV. It certainly happened to me once in Sydney when I was teaching meditation, and this one woman in the meditation group was looking at me and waving her hands at me and smiling, and she was really acting a bit strange. And after the session, I asked the organizer, who the heck was that? What was she doing? And she was some famous TV personality in Sydney. And I didn't know who the heck she was. And she was very upset that I didn't recognize her. But that's just being a monk and not watching the TV. But the most important thing is that whatever you do, you can make a mistake, you try and learn afterwards. You admit all the mistakes you do. That means you're not afraid. And anyway, this celebrity wedding, which I performed many years ago, that was the one part of the wedding ceremony which they really appreciated. I asked them that every year to do a forgiveness ceremony together, just privately. And no, whoever does it first is not so important. Maybe just change every year. This year you, this year me. And those couple to actually to say, if there's anything which I have done, or said, or thought, or things I didn't do which I should have done, by body, speech, or mind. Intentional, because I'm not a perfect human being yet, or unintentional. Please forgive me. And say it with honesty. The way I've been taught by Ajahn Chah and reading the sutras, if somebody really does ask forgiveness, you have to give it to them. Even if you doubt their sincerity, are they just doing this to get out of a problem? If they doubt their sincerity, I will still give them forgiveness because I value that forgiveness so much. It's a wonderful way to transform the mind. And it encourages people to keep asking forgiveness when they make mistakes, and the other people encouraging them to forgive. So that way we can let go of the past hurts, which can sometimes be in our minds for years and years and years and years. So much so I reckon they can cause many diseases, many mistrusts. You don't have to be perfect to be happy. You have to be honest to be happy. And just being honest by confessing any faults or just asking forgiveness was that one teaching with this couple in Malaysia. They keep, every now and again, they send an email to me and they say to us, how are you going, Ajahn Brahm? We're doing fine. We're still married, having a wonderful life together. And they said that was the most important part of the ceremony, teaching them just forgiveness, not to expect one another to be perfect, but to admit their faults and to get their forgiveness so they can do better next time. And that doing better usually happens. It transforms our relationships, the way we look at one another. I don't know why it is, but sometimes in our world that we're supposed to be perfect. And I've often been contemplating where that silly idea came from. We all have to be perfect. To the point that I traced it back to times I was a little kid in school. And when I was a child in school, I made a mistake. And I remember just one mistake I made at school. I don't think you've heard this one before, that I made a spelling error when I was talking about a relaxing time at some holiday camp. Instead of putting relaxing, I call a laxative time. I made a big mistake. That's not the word I really meant to say. But nevertheless, I always, from that moment on, I was only a young kid at the time, I learned the difference between relaxing and laxative. So anyhow, when we do make mistakes, admit them and just laugh at them, learn from them, grow from them. And that's just how we do transform. And this also means we're willing to take chances. So many people are so afraid, to take chances. They think there'll be failures. They think, what will people think of me if I do this? Oh, just it's worthwhile just giving things a try. As long as it's a good thing, you're not harming or hurting anybody, give it a try and see what happens. So many people at this particular time, they want to maybe leave this job and get another job, or maybe take some time off and see what happens to change just, what you do in your life. Sometimes people are too afraid to take those chances. I don't mean being silly and just changing all the time and not doing any research or any just assessment of what might happen, but just give it a try and see what happens. And that means that you're learning, you're much more adventurous in life. And as you're more adventurous in life and to see what happens, sometimes you come across some wonderful people, some wonderful teachers, some wonderful experiences, which sometimes if I hadn't, say, gone to Thailand, if I'd have taken the easy option and just carried on working, what would have happened in my life? And I would have regretted that so much. So that's one of the reasons why you give it a try, see what happens. You never know. And a lot of times you come across some wonderful experiences. I also recall that was conditioned into me, again, from going to the University of Cambridge, where you're always encouraged. You had a stupid idea, and then they would say, no, give it a try, see what happens. And I do remember going in those laboratories in the old Cavendish laboratory in Cambridge, and you'd see people blow things up. I remember just once a student, the machine he was using went a big bang. Fortunately, it didn't burn down that particular laboratory. He certainly made a mess, but he wasn't punished at all, that he was trying an interesting experiment, which this time did not work. But who knows, next time it might work. And because of that they were exploring life and they were growing without being afraid. And obviously, you'll have your backup plans. If it really goes bang too many times, you can always go and become a monk or something, or change career, or do something different, get a job in the army. I don't know. But anyway, they like bangs in the army. But anyway, that I'll get a job for the New Year's fireworks celebrations in Singapore. I don't know. But anyway, that when we have that bit of courage, we find that we have a mind which can explore and can learn. And that's part of what mindfulness is. We are aware enough to understand how our mind works and understand in particular just how it can be low energy or high energy, how it can be very sharp or very dull, how it can be wise or maybe just go in the old routines of greed and ill will and revenge and stupidity. Why does it do that? One of the reasons is laziness. You haven't got enough energy, enough power to do something different and to see a different path to walk on. I still remember the Buddha's description of enlightenment and the Eightfold Path. Just an old path which has been overgrown in the jungle. He didn't make that path. He discovered an ancient path which led to this ancient city called Nirvana. And he had the courage to walk on that path and find this beautiful, beautiful, just silly and uncountable star resort of full enlightenment. And of course, he walked it. His close disciples walked it. Many people walked it. And it widened the path. Every time people go down there, the path goes wider and easier and more comfortable. And so little by little, we transform our mind that way. But in particular, to energize the mind, it's one of the things which I've been teaching a lot. It's so important in all parts of your life, whether you're a kid at school, or whether you're at work, whether you are just relaxing somewhere or going on a retreat, or you're a monk or a nun or a teacher. Sometimes we get tired, especially when you get old. And someone said the other day, prehistoric, like me. I'm not really prehistoric yet, but it's a bit of an exaggeration, but you can see where they're coming from. But just as you get older, your physical powers decline, but your mental powers can improve and get stronger and stronger. How can that be the case? And of course, first of all, it's understanding this mind is totally separate and different from this physical body. I've seen that too many times. Even though the body is tired, even though the body is sick, even though it's in the middle of a fever, still the mind can be so sharp and peaceful and blissed out. And to know how that works, that was one of the great insights of the Buddha. And we do use that mindfulness, but we empower that mindfulness. And the mindfulness is empowered by stillness, by stopping, by being still. And there's so many these tales. I'm sure many of the people who've been to my talks before are listening to this. But the story which comes to mind is a classic story of when after 6 or 7 years of being in Australia and always being busy building things or teaching or doing work, and just one day I was coming back to the monastery where I live, and I asked the driver of the car, please let me out to the bottom of the hill. It was a beautiful spring morning in Western Australia. And he did. And I walked up the 2.2 kilometers up what's called Kingsbury Drive up to Bodhinyana Monastery. And as I was walking, wow, it wasn't the exercise which I valued. It was the perspective which I saw. It was like the first time I'd seen that hillside. And it was beautiful. I never expected it to be so green and so lush and so shiny in the sunlight. And it took my attention so much, and it was so weird. I've been living up there for 7 years, and it's like the first time you've seen it. Where had I been all those 7 years? And now I stopped, and standing still, the greens got greener, the browns browner, the blues of the river and the bottom were more delightful. Everything got so beautiful and gorgeous. I started wondering, where does this delight and beauty come from? And of course, the scientific explanation was that when you look through the window of a speeding car, not really speeding, maybe 60 kilometers an hour going up the hill, you look through the window of a moving car, and the light which reaches the back of your eye does not have time to form a proper image on the retina. And the signals which go down the optic cord don't have a time to be explored by your brain, and your mind can't really feel the texture of it and the depth of it and the beauty of it. It's all too fast. And then another image comes in, another image comes in, another image comes in. That's like looking through the window of a car. But when you walk, you go slower, and all the light has more time to form an image on the back of your eye. And the mind has more time to explore. It looks more beautiful, and you see more depth, more texture, more beauty, the slower you walk. And when you just stand still, you don't move at all. You don't think, you just drink in all the beauty, all the information of the scene around you. And that is so incredibly beautiful. You see so much of the grass, so much of the rocks and the lichen on the grass, and all the contours of the bumps in those rocks. You can see just all the little thousands of waterfalls, tiny ones, but so delightful, in the little creek running through the valley, and all glistening in the sunshine. And it was gorgeous, beautiful. And I'd only seen it because I had the time to stop and be still. I had the courage to stop and see the beauty, see the depth, and see all the detail in that forest, on that hillside, sorry. And that was such a wonderful metaphor for how to empower mindfulness with stillness. You're aware, but how aware are you? And as you become more still and more confident in that stillness, you don't think, you don't do, you don't go anywhere, you don't aspire for anything, because right now is more than gorgeous and beautiful enough. And you just stay here. It's like you turn on this power source, this incredible, great energy, which the mind just gives into this moment. And what you see becomes more delightful, more green grass, the deeper green you've ever seen before. And the blue of the sky is powerful, like ultra blue. Everything becomes delightful and gorgeous and profound. Your mindfulness is increasing. In the sutras, in the texts, what that means is your 5 hindrances are getting weak. These are the hindrances which stop you seeing. These are the defilements which cloud the mind, which reduce its power to see and to enjoy what's even in the hillside around you, let alone everything else which is around you in this world. And the more slow you go, when you stop, and the energy, the power of the mind becomes transformed, you see much deeper into things. And what you see is far more enjoyable. It's a great metaphor for overcoming these 5 hindrances, which are basically, wanting and ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry and doubt, all these things which make your mind move. And this stops all of that. Mind is still. And soon you become empowered, transformed. And what you see is very deep. You see things you've never seen before. You understand connections you've never known before. And you're seeing the Dhamma. You're becoming wise. You're getting insights because the mind is still. And it's not something which is unpleasant. I remember when you had to study for exams, that was really unpleasant. I never wanted to study. I wanted to go out and play a game of soccer with my friends or go out with girlfriends and stuff. But I had to stay home and study. I thought that to be wise, to get knowledge, was hard work. But this is not hard work at all. This is just fun. You're relaxing to the max. The body feels good, the mind feels alert and happy and joyful, and you get all this incredible energy and lovely insights. Simply because it's like you're polishing the glasses of your spectacles which you wear in front of your eyes. Now you can see, now you can feel. And even recently, I remember in a BBC article about someone who became a hermit in Scotland, a woman who tried to live a very simple life. And she started to experience what she called enhanced perceptions. Whatever she even tasted, she's tasted so much more of it. She was just tasting oats, a standard breakfast in Scotland, which was pretty plain. But her oats taste the most five-star, delicious, savory, tasty oats she'd ever ate in her life. The oats were the same, but the mind could now appreciate it. The mind had been transformed and empowered. It wasn't desire or ill will. The mind was just pause, and this was the nature of oats when your mind is very still and powerful. And not just that, sometimes going out into the windy hillside of Scotland, even the wind would be strong, blowing past her ears and her hair. But it had changed. It was beautiful. It was delightful. It was alive. She enjoyed every moment of it. She was transforming her perceptions by them becoming so stronger. They became blissful. And that's the other wonderful thing about transforming the mind, that the more it gets transformed, the more it gets energized, the more delightfully you see the world. And even in some of the more repugnant things of the world, people just fighting each other, or people getting sick, or people just arguing. And have you ever seen maybe your children arguing when they were very young? And you laugh a little bit, you say, don't do that. But you don't take it so seriously. These days, people take things way too seriously. Differences of opinion became matters of war. I still remember who was it? The Lilliput and Gulliver, Gulliver's Travels. In Gulliver's Travels, that wonderful little satire, he found that these islands, these communities were having a war. And what was the cause of the war? They argued on, when you have a boiled egg, which side of the egg should you crack first? The narrow side or the fat side? And they had a war over that. And just how we can have so many arguments, cause so many problems over small things. But when our minds are full of anger and revenge and stupidity, when they're not energized, sometimes small things become huge. And I must be right, therefore they must be wrong. Isn't it wonderful if we can admit, I'm wrong? And the other people, what are they going to do now? At least it stops a lot of wars. And we can sit down and listen to one another and be kind to one another. And this is how we do make peace in our life. To have a ceasefire. I like the word ceasefire because it doesn't mean we're solving a conflict. We're having a pause. Because in those pauses between the conflicts of our lives and the struggles of our day, when we have pauses, that's where we can get energy, we can be wise, we can actually see solutions. That's what mindfulness does. We pause to stop and to understand and to fix things up. Usually when we understand, we see the problems and things get fixed up by themselves. We just don't go down that path anymore. Little by little, by slowing down, by stopping, by empowering our mind, transforming it, giving it energy, we get the happiness, the joy, and even what people say about you. You may have often noticed that when you're really happy, when you've fallen in love, when you've got a big promotion, which you're really searching for a long time, or when you just retired, yay, I'm retired now. When you're really happy, people can say all sorts of things about you, and it doesn't matter at all. Because your happiness is so strong, they can't penetrate it to upset you. Which is one of the reasons why that when the mind is very joyful, then it becomes impregnable to some of the words which other people say. They may say some stupid words to you. You just end up just laughing. Still remember this. It was a Tibetan monk which I met in a conference over in Phnom Penh many years ago. And some other monk was just picking fun at him. And this Tibetan monk was laughing all over his face. And he literally fell off his chair. He's sitting next to me. While he was laughing, I couldn't actually hold him up. But instead of getting angry at the person who's saying bad things to him, he just started laughing. He laughed so much. And he certainly, I prefer to be the Tibetan monk and have bad things said about me and just laugh all over my face. And that person who was trying to pick fault with him. You ever noticed how that happiness, that strong mindfulness, it transforms the mind, whatever happens in your life? Oh, well, I've done my best. I've given it everything I've got. What more can I give? And then you can let it go and be at peace. Which means that we learn how to transform our mind from being scared of failure, scared of pain, scared of what other people say about us. We can transform it from being scared to something which is strong, which is happy. We can do our jobs, we can be successful in our life. We can create so much positive outcomes from this world, simply because we've got the energy and the happiness. And we don't give that up. We're resilient. When life's problems fall on us, it's cold, it's hot, we lose our job, we get another job. Whatever happens in your life, you find that strength. We'll say, well, okay, I'm sick, I'm going to die. I'm going to die anyway. So it's not such a big thing. Get reborn again if you want to. So what's the big deal? You lose a job, other people have lost their job, get another job, have a bit of time off, relax, maybe do some meditation or do some more studies. There's so much you can do. And a positive mind, which is grown from deep meditation, is what will protect you. It's how we transform our mind. Some mindfulness, some stillness, some kindness, what I kept on calling kindfulness. Kindfulness and stillness. This beautiful the second factor of the Eightfold Path. Just let go. Sometimes I call it make peace. Be kind and be gentle. It's how the Buddha taught. Let go, be kind, be gentle. And the mind becomes very relaxed and peaceful and powerful and still. And you can feel the energy of the mind. You're like waking up. You can see more deeply. You know more. And even the noodles, or if it's in Sri Lanka, the hoppers you have in the morning. Wow, they taste like the best hoppers which you've ever tasted in your whole life. And it's not the cause of the chef. It's the cause of your mind. Your senses have been enhanced. And you can taste so much deeper, feel so much more. You are literally transforming the mind. And you can feel it. You know it. It's obvious to you. And that also means that you can see more deeply what is the nature of beauty in this world. Why do we react and reject things? Why do we always make assumptions which are most of the time not true? We go to conclusions way too quickly. We don't forgive ourselves. We don't forgive others. Lay blame, make judgments, and make our world and the world of others miserable. Instead of doing that, the powerful mind, happy, joy, when we can give people the benefit of the doubt. Well, I don't know why you did that, but maybe you were in a bad mood this morning or whatever, I don't know, but giving that forgiveness. And people love that acceptance. Sometimes you know you've done a silly thing, but someone has the power, mental power and confidence to forgive you. You say, never mind, that's fine. I'll still be your friend. I'll always be your friend, no matter what you ever do. What does that do to you? That makes you a stronger, more peaceful person, a transformed person who has both courage and peace. Just learning from the other people. They trusted me, therefore I will trust them. And that's crikey, that's 45 minutes already gone. So I hopefully you enjoyed that. And if you want to do according to my instructions, and I sometimes follow instructions, not always, but now is a possible time to do some meditation.
Yes, go ahead, Ajahn Brahm.
Okay, very good. So now I'll do a little guided meditation for you all. So it's very easy for you. You don't need to do anything. Just close your eyes and just soak in my brainwashing. I mean, my teaching. In other words, just first of all, with your eyes closed, be kind to your body, first of all. The kindfulness onto this body in which you've been living for so many years. Sometimes we're not so kind to it. We push it too much. We don't give it a rest. So I don't know where you're sitting, in a chair, or you can be laying in bed. I don't care if you're sick. You can be, but quite frankly, even if you're on the toilet bowl, as long as you are being kind to your body, that's fine too. So it's not disrespectful. Be respectful to your body by being kind to it. And as you are, say, sitting here on a stool, on a chair, on a cushion, wherever, then how does your body feel? To know how it feels, my little trick, which works for me, is to ask my body, legs, how do you feel right now? Because as soon as I ask that question, my awareness goes to that one part of the body. And if I say, see Angie, I ask her how she is, and my awareness goes to her and just see if she can tell me how she is. So I do this to my legs. And once I find out how they are, if I'm in a bad position, an uncomfortable position, I would say, then I just change my posture, move the legs around. Actually, my butt is not very comfortable right now, so I'm going to change that. Yes, better. So I ask my butt, is that fine now? And so I imagine the butt saying, yeah, it's okay now. Check my back. How's the back feeling? Stretch it, move it away from the chair or back on the chair. I think tonight it feels good on the back of the chair. But I let the feelings in my back decide. I don't push the posture following someone else's idea of what's a good posture or not. That person hasn't got your body. I haven't got your body. It's your body, so you ask your body what it needs. And be smart enough to follow the advice of your body with kindness and wisdom. How are my shoulders? I've learned over many years of meditating how to just relax my shoulders just by looking at them and just letting go. Opening up, not holding anything tight, not stretching things, but feeling and loosening as much tension as I can. I go down to my elbows and hands, loosening, relaxing, asking hands and fingers, thumbs, are you in a good position? Do you want to be moved? Until my hands say they are really comfortable. Thank you very much for being concerned. Now I can let them go. And go up, usually go up to my neck, making sure that's well balanced. The throat is at ease. And up to my facial features, The muscles around the eyes and the mouth and the head, I feel them. How are you? Almost as if they did not belong to me, but they were my friends. I inquire for their well-being, mindful of their state of comfort. I learn how to make them more comfortable by loosening that tightness, lessening the tension, relaxing to the max all the muscles in my face. The advantage of this is you can only feel bodily sensations in this moment. It brings me into present moment awareness. It brings me into a state of silence. I'm not having some conversation, I'm just knowing. And then I become aware of my whole body sitting here. That's one unit. That's how I imagine it. And every part of it has been cared for, been looked after. And it responds. It always does this. It responds by feeling delightful. It's like it's thank you. Thank you for relaxing me and caring for me. And the delightful feeling of a relaxed body becomes the object of my mindfulness. It's strong, it's there, and it's easy to watch. Delightful relaxation. Just being here. With a body which is at ease. And it knows that if it wants to be adjusted, I'll do that. It says it's fine. It's comfortable. And as I am aware of the delight of relaxation, the relaxation always goes deeper. I can feel my back and my face, my legs get even more at ease. Just enjoying the delight of a body which has been adjusted part by part and then at whole, at one. Just sitting here with nothing necessary to move anymore. No physical business left. At ease. And then I need to relax my mind. I go inside and to look at what I've been calling for quite a few years now, my peaceometer. Just like a thermometer or speedometer, it gives you feedback on those qualities. How fast are you going? How warm or cold is it? Or hot? But this is my peaceometer. How peaceful am I in this moment, right now? I give it a number from 1 to 10, or roughly. Then I also know what makes my mind more peaceful, or what agitates it. It's a pretty easy insight to see and to prove. Your future, worrying about the future, being concerned about what's going to happen next, that agitates the mind. Doing the unnecessary business from the past agitates the mind. Being in this moment with nothing to do, being confident just to be, relaxes the mind. You can feel that relaxation getting deeper. Same way, when you turn on a heater, you can feel the temperature getting warmer. When you turn off past and future and turn off the thinking, you can feel the mind getting more and more calm. all more peaceful. You may get tired at first when you do this meditation, but make peace with any tiredness. Just is that your energies are low because you've been working hard. The energy will come back because when you're not spending energy, you're not wasting it. The natural energy of the body and in the mind starts to accumulate. The less you do, the more the energy builds. This is how I meditate. The energy gets stronger and stronger. I'm still, I'm not moving from this moment. And all the words I say, you may not believe this, but this is how I experience this moment. I am silent inside. These words speak themselves. That silent awareness gets stronger. Just like relaxing the body makes the body feel delightful. So relaxing in this moment, the mind feels delightful and now becomes pleasant. It's enjoyable, having nothing to do in the past or with the past, having nothing to plan for the future. Just being here in this moment, just now. It's like you're on holiday. Not trying to attain things or transform things. The mind transforms by itself. You give it the chance. Give it this moment. Give it silence. Have a ceasefire in all the negativity or the striving of your life. Now's the time to stay home in this moment, inside. For me, this is usually where my breathing comes up. Just become aware of the breath. I don't choose to. It's like it's the only thing which is moving. My breath, when I don't go looking for it and trying to imprison it, I just let the breath come to me. It's always very, very peaceful. So easy to watch. It's delightful. Watching this delightful breath come in. The delightful breath go out. Sometimes I compare it to sitting by an empty beach, just watching the waves come up the shore, gently, calmly, watching them ebb away again. Your breath come into your body. Watching your breath go out. Nothing more to do in this moment. It's resting. There's no challenge for you to achieve. No competition. Just being. Not trying to prove anything or judge anything. You just are. It's delightful when the mind rests and gets powerful. You go on for longer. Imagine how much energy and power you can feel. Sometimes you really get into this. You forget about time. You just sit half an hour, 2 hours. You don't realize how much time has gone past. Keep enjoying every moment of this. It gets deeper and more powerful. When you come out of those meditations, wow, you're really empowered. The mind is so strong. You can see so many more things that you've never seen before. Understand your insights, all your teachings you've learned from a monk or a nun. They're yours. Your wisdom, your seeing. Freedom. Now, if you'd like to open your eyes slowly. Come out from the meditation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajahn Brahm, for that lovely meditation session.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Shall we start with some questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So in meditation, practicing non-planning and non-controlling, so one is able to have the same attitude in daily life, because it seems that one needs to practice not only the intention. And is mindfulness bad when there's too much of it, like excessive meditation?
Hey, no, you can't get bad mindfulness from excessive meditation. You get just even better, powerful meditation. But in order to make use of it, in whatever you're doing, keep the plans made out of rubber rather than made out of concrete. Concrete you can't bend. You try and change a piece of concrete and it's just set hard and it just will not give. Rubber bends. So in other words, you make a little plan and then just change it if you need to. But the main thing, which I found, with success and happiness in life and high achievers, is just a general kindness, awareness in this moment, and just this basically power of gentleness. Gentleness is far more powerful than people really think or expect. Still remember the great Gandhi, who just he pushed all of the British Empire out of India through gentleness, through non-violence. It was a powerful, powerful lesson which many people forget. Not through force and through violence, but through like a very high, gentle morality. So that's one of the reasons why the more people we have meditating, I think the better our worlds will be. And also, it's not just the more lazy we will be, the more things we will invent, the more harmony we'll have, the more time we will have being able to work on things instead of just fix up all problems and protests and sicknesses and stuff. So it's obvious to me it make a much better world.
Ajahn Brahm, what's the difference between letting go and inaction? Does it not take responsibility away from life?
Oh no, because when you let go, it's your responsibility to let go. For example, you have kids. Okay, inaction, look, your kids, when they grow up, they're going to leave. They're going to have to find their own life and their own way of doing things, and they deserve that right. If my mother had let me go, I'd still be in England studying or something. Well, I was very impressed. And she said, no, if you really want to go to Thailand to become a monk, go with my blessing. And that was just what that did. It gave me this wonderful sense. It was a gift she gave me, a gift of freedom. She let me go. And of course, I lived up to, I think, her expectations and probably a lot more. And so that's not inaction. Inaction is just feeling that we should have done something and we don't do it, thinking that we are just afraid of doing action. Letting go takes a lot of courage. Inaction is just laziness.
Thank you. Ajahn, if we live for the day and don't plan ahead, wouldn't everyone be doing things that will cause chaos because isn't planning in the future, for the future, keeping things in order?
Well, I think that pretty now we're in chaos. So it doesn't say much, but lots of planning and stuff. So sometimes our planning for the future is too fixed and too firm. And we're so busy planning for the future, we're not really appreciating what's actually happening now. We're looking so far ahead when we're walking down the street, we're treading a dog poo, which is right in front of us right now, because we're just looking too far ahead. So sometimes it's great to be able to just at least go further towards letting go, having more holidays, not working so hard. I think it was Jacinda Ardern, New Zealand, was talking about, people have talked about 4-day weeks for a long time now. Maybe we can even try that. You may not be as rich as you are, but nevertheless, you have more time to experience and enjoy the little money you have. Because what does it actually cost to have enjoyment? I have lots of enjoyment living here. I've got no money, got no income, no savings, no pension. I have a good time. So why are you saving up so much for? So sometimes we can learn how to live more simply and have more fun and work
Good
less.
point.
Yeah.
So one more question before I hand to Rohantha. Some people blame their misfortune on feng shui, bad feng shui. Is it true? How can we comfort them through Buddhist teachings to improve their lives?
Well, I remember this man in Australia. He had a Chinese wife, and he was Australian, Caucasian. And, he had a very difficult marriage. So he went to a feng shui master who came to see his house while his wife was out in the shops, and told him his furniture was badly arranged. So he rearranged his furniture, and I asked him, did it work? He said it worked really good. He put all the sofas and the chairs against the door. When his wife was out, she couldn't get back in. He said he had a wonderful life now. Sorry, that's a silly joke. Please excuse me, but I can't change myself. But anyway, no, it's real Feng Shui masters will probably tell you that the main influence of life is not just where you live or how you live, where you live or the environment around you, but what you make out of that environment, how you can change the Feng Shui in an area. And the obvious example of that, this is not a joke, is the Bodhinyana meditation hall in the monastery where I live. It's got really, really strong power there. And one of the friends, when I was, I think, away somewhere, probably in Singapore or Malaysia or Thailand or somewhere, they brought a Feng Shui master into Bodhinyana monastery while I was away. And when they went into that hall, they said, apparently, wow, this is some of the greatest Feng Shui I've ever seen. That wasn't there 40 years ago. It's been built up by all the kindness, all the goodness, all the meditation, all the service, all the monks and nuns and lay people who sat in that hall over so many years. So Feng Shui can be enhanced, it can be established, it can be improved by the actions and the mind states of human beings.
Yes, I think if you bought the best place and you're always having arguments and conflicts, there's not going to be much good feng shui left.
No, indeed, yes. Yeah. So Feng Shui, you make that, you create it.
All right, Rohantha, do you have some questions you'd like to pose to Ajahn?
Yes, please. Okay, so I've been trying to compile some of these questions and kind of sometimes bundle them together because they are kind of more related to each other. So the first one is, Ajahn, how would you explain the benefits of Buddhist meditation to a worldly youngster? Most of them would prefer a secular type of meditation. And also, accompanying question is, due to the ever-increasing popularity of mindfulness practices, these days we hear a lot about secular meditation practices as opposed to Buddhist meditation. Rather disparagingly, some even refer to former practices as mindfulness. Can you please elaborate as to what the difference is?
Okay, because we have words like secular mindfulness and Buddhist mindfulness, but you go to 100 different teachers and they'll all teach different things. So it's not what people teach which is important, it's what people practice which is important. And if you take some of those teachings from whatever teacher and you try them out, see what works. Now, in our world where you have a young person, say, having exams, you may have heard me teach before about how I used my meditation practice to actually do very well in my final exams. It's a good story, so please let me say it at length. It's those days, natural sciences in University of Cambridge, theoretical physics was part of natural sciences tripos. There were 7 days of exams, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, so 6 days of exams. And it was 3-hour paper in the morning, 3-hour in the afternoon with an hour for lunch in a row. And that was just really hard. You didn't have any breaks between the exams except for 1 hour for lunch. And in the evening, go and take a rest and back in the in the examination hall in the afternoon or in the next morning. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday in a row. And so the only way I dealt with that was not to have lunch. I'd have a breakfast in the morning, a dinner in the evening. I wasn't a monk yet, obviously. And lunchtime, I would just go back to my room, sit down on my cushion and meditate for half an hour. And this is what happened every lunch hour during final examinations at Cambridge. Sit down, the first thing which came into your mind was the past. How did I do in the morning exam? Did I answer those questions correctly? Did I put enough explanation in? Now, right or wrong, the morning exam had gone, it finished, it's passed, and there's no way in the world I could change it. What a waste of time it was, all that rethinking over the past. So I could let it go, because I trained in letting go of the past. Next thing which came into my mind was the worry about the afternoon exam. Should I just stop my meditation and do some more study, some revision? But because I knew how to let go of the future, I could not worry about the future. I needed to rest and build up my energies now if I was going to be successful in the afternoon. So I let go of the past and the future, which for me was the morning and afternoon exams. And then I noticed something which I hadn't seen before. And that was I was shaking. I was physically shaking because of nervousness. This was a big time, final examinations. And I never thought I was nervous. But once you notice what the problem is, the nervousness, you can just look at your hands and just calm them down and soothe them. So my body stopped shaking. And the last thing I noticed was how tired my brain was. I was exhausted after a 3-hour exam in something like quantum physics. And I had no energy left. I think when I describe this, I usually say it's like having a tea bag which had already been used. You can't get much more tea out of it. But I also knew if I could just be still for a while, just relax, the energy would come back. And it did every lunchtime, 5 or 10 minutes, and my brain started becoming awake, alive, refreshed. So I use that meditation to go into the exam room every afternoon, refreshed. And this is a true story, that my friends would say that I was the only student who came into the afternoon examination with a smile on my face. They were all worried terribly. I was smiling. And they thought afterwards, they never said at the time, they thought I was cheating So otherwise, know the answers. Of course, I wasn't, well, maybe call it cheating because I knew my meditation and how to relax and empower after a very difficult morning. And that's just one advantage over many just in your world. Other things which you learned, innovation. How important is it in our world to see new things, the different ways of doing things, to break new ground? And innovation, I still quote, what's his name again? Josephson, Brian Josephson. He's the only Welshman to get a Nobel Prize in physics. And it was for quantum tunneling, which became the basis of supercomputing. And he got that Nobel Prize insight after meditating. And Nobel Prize in physics. And he says that, so credits that to the meditation he was doing beforehand. So, if you want a Nobel Prize, if you want, well, what's the other quote I like saying is the Thai temple in Wimbledon in London, that every year, maybe not this year, but most years before, in the early morning, they'd always have a visitor coming early in the morning to go and meditate in the gardens. So they've got beautiful gardens at that temple. And the reason he would meditate there, because the Thai temple in London, is in the suburb of Wimbledon. And it literally is just almost next door to the Wimbledon All English Tennis Club. And that man is no other than Novak Djokovic, who would go there every morning to meditate before he actually played his matches. And he did pretty well, for using that awareness, that mindfulness, that meditation before playing in the Wimbledon tennis finals. So there's so many cases like that of people using mindfulness to enhance their achievements in life and their health, their well-being. Seems like everything. So anyway, go.
So Ajahn, that leads to the question, what's the difference between samadhi and vipassana meditation techniques?
It is no difference. One day, okay, here we go. I've already started the story, so I'm going to finish it. One day, there were these two people. They've been living together for years. He was called Sam. She was called Vi. Samatha, or Samadhi, if you like, and Vipassana. But they had these two dogs. One dog was called Metta. The other dog was called Anapanasati. So one day after lunch, they decided to go and walk up Meditation Mountain, and they took their two dogs with them, Metta and Anapanasati. Sam went up there because it was so peaceful, so quiet on top of Meditation Mountain. His partner, Vi, she went up there because you could see so far. You get so many insights into the world around you. So she took up a high-powered camera, not one of these iPhones, but no, proper camera. And with their two dogs, they walked up Meditation Mountain. When they got halfway up Meditation Mountain, the Anapanasati, that dog, couldn't hardly see her at all. She was vanishing. Metta was getting so joyful, so happy. Sam could feel the deep peace even halfway up Meditation Mountain. And Vi was taking all these amazing shots with her camera of the universe around her. And when they got to the top of Meditation Mountain, whoa, that was so still, so peaceful. But Sam had a pair of eyes, so he could see the great view as well. His partner, Vi, she took some amazing shots from the very top of Meditation Mountain. But she could also delight in the peace. And Metta the dog was running around in circles like dogs do, wagging her tail like it's going to fall off, but being quiet, because even Metta was so happy and so joyful, and spreading its joy to the whole world, and also experiencing the deep peace and insights. I mentioned Anapanasati, the dog, because Anapana, the breath, disappears on the top of Meditation Mountain. It can't be found. So that's the story. They go together. They can't be separated. You may think you're doing Vipassana meditation, but Samatha's coming right behind. You may think you're doing Samatha, the calm meditation, but insight is coming right behind. They always go together.
Thank you. So Ajahn Brahm, is the key to transforming an unenlightened mind to have unlimited kindness and compassion to one's own mind?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Give that a try, see if it works. But it has to be unlimited. Unlimited compassion means you open your heart totally to what you experience. Boundless, totally, no exceptions, no measuring. And there's nothing much to do anymore. There's nothing much to do. You become very still. No work to be done. And with that stillness, that gets more and more powerful. You start blissing out. I don't know why people are afraid of blissing out. It's amazing, isn't it? Why they are afraid of blissing out and having some happiness. And it's
and people are afraid to have lots of kindness because they think they'll be taken advantage of. But the reality is you don't. And so what?
You can give so much, and this world needs more kindness. So there's a shortage of kindness in this world. So the more you can give and supply, the better life will be. You don't get taken advantage. People want to say thank you and help and give to you.
Yep, indeed. Rohantha, do you have another question?
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay. Another dual question from two different people, but related. First one is, in Anapanasati Sutta, Buddha advises meditators to be aware of the long breath, short breath, etc. at the beginning. But you do not mention the same way in your guided meditation. Can you kindly discuss? And the related question is, Ajahn might as well say, cover it on both the questions. Compared to Buddha's relatively high-level instructions, meditation teachers recommend various techniques such as mantras, counting, etc. to help focus. Some teachers also place a lot of emphasis on day-to-day mindfulness. These are undoubtedly useful. Did the Buddha mention such practices? If so, can you please point to the relevant sutras? If not, why do you think it was?
Okay, first of all, long breath, short breath. You know, when I first started meditation on the breath, I thought, actually, how long is a long breath? And how short is a short breath? Because most of the time, my breath was somewhere in the middle. It was maybe like 2/3 long, or maybe 1/3 on the shorter side. But they weren't even mentioned there. You're supposed to have a long breath or a short breath, one of those two. And it took me a long time to realize and have confidence that all you're doing, that was just a little helpful means to actually to know something about your breath. Now, is it long, is it short, is it in between? Just roughly. It makes it easier to watch your breath at the beginning. But it's also, in part of the Anapanasati Sutta, something which I've pointed out and practiced, when they say that I think it's parimukha, to make sati, establish sati, parimukha. And it doesn't mean in front of your face, in front of your nose, in front of your mouth. What it really means is make it a priority. So even before you start watching the breath, establish mindfulness as your main concern. Because I noticed myself and many others, I've taught meditation a long time now, that when they start watching the breath without enough mindfulness to begin with, it's a struggle to keep their awareness on the breath. They have to use force and effort, they get headache, they get tense, they get angry, and that's obviously a sign that something is going wrong. It's for you instead establish mindfulness first, really very strong mindfulness. Then by the time you watch your breath, and just to me the breath always comes up by itself. By the time you watch your breath, it's so easy to do. You just watch your breath for minutes and minutes, it usually just gets deeper. But it's so easy to watch the breath once that mindfulness is strong. So I've had much more success in teaching by focusing on the early part of the Buddha's instructions on anapanasati, getting on mindfulness strong first of all. And that means that mindfulness strong is not just when you're sitting on a meditation cushion. Because you come into the meditation hall or meditation cushion, you bring all the experience of your past with you. Unfortunately, if you're very tired, you know that exhaustion will be there. If you've been upset and angry, rushing around, then that'll be the mind you start with. So the more you can do mindfulness in your daily life, the more you can do kindness in your daily life. It's like you're way ahead when you sit on your meditation cushion. So meditation is not just what you do in your meditation cushion, it's what you did before and afterwards as well. That's why I don't see a difference between meditation in your work or in your life and meditation in the monastery or on retreats or whatever. They all support one another.
Some people think that by meditating, you get a worse experience. You just become aware of the experience. It doesn't make it worse. In fact, you create a choice, an awareness of choice as to what you're going to do with it.
Yeah, and if you meditate properly, usually those bad experiences or unpleasantness just gets less and less and less and less and less and less and less.
Yep.
Because you're not so concerned what other people think of you, your body gets healthy, and you can laugh at misfortune.
Yes. So there's a question here about, is there heaven and hell?
You can't go past the Zen story about that.
Go for it.
Okay, so this samurai, hundreds of years ago in Japan, he was just really wanted to find out whether there was heaven, there was hell. And so he'd ask all these philosophers and monks, and no one would give him a really satisfying answer until he came to see this very old meditation monk, not a scholar, an old meditation monk living in the forest or the mountains. And he came up to him and the samurai did the proper obeisance, bowed 3 times and said, "Venerable monk, I am a samurai warrior, and I've come here to ask you, is there such a thing as hell?" And the monk looked up at him and said, "You're too stupid to know the answer to that." And he said, "Did you call me stupid?" Yeah, that was a bit of an understatement. Like idiot is probably a better idea. And the samurai got very upset and he took out his sword. "You should not insult a samurai like that." And he was about to chop off his head. Oh no, before he was going to chop off his head, the monk looked one look at his sword. "Hey, you call that a sword? You couldn't even slice a piece of bread with a rusty old piece of iron like that." And that was just one step too far. The samurai put his sword back and was about to strike the monk's head and cut it off. And the monk said, "That is hell. Your anger, that is hell." Now, it's a very sort of touch and go thing to do. I wouldn't do that with a samurai warrior, but that monk got away with it. And the samurai understood the teaching. And he said, "At last, I have a teaching which I can be aware of myself. I can feel it myself. That is hell, being angry." He put his sword away, bowed to that monk with tears flowing from his eyes. "At last, I met someone who can teach me, not from sort of theories, but from practice. Thank you, that's wonderful." And the monk said, "And samurai, this is heaven, the forgiveness." But that's a beautiful little story of sometimes we can be very theoretical. But then, what is heaven and hell? It's this attitude of mind. And that once we die and get reborn, we can take the attitude of mind and make a hell out of any place, make a heaven out of any place.
You don't have to wait till you die, right?
You don't have to wait till you die. There's many people you see in hell right now, many people in heaven. It's just a wonderful thing when you just see great acts of kindness and forgiveness. Just a photo I saw, you probably saw it as well. There was one of these protests over in United States, and there was a white man got injured, a black man. During the protest, they were on opposite sides. He was obviously injured, and he sort of put him over his shoulder and just carried him to safety to get healed. I thought, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That was heavenly to see something like that. In the middle of a protest, people got really concerned about the future of race relations in the United States. A black fellow carried a white fellow to get medical attention.
Now, it's obviously this guy who asked the question is really concerned about after death. Is it possible for him to end up in hell?
There is, but the other thing about heaven and hell is, now, first of all, it's made so much sense to me from my meditations, and it took a while, and I thought I was actually adding to what the Buddha taught. But then Ajahn Brahmali came up, and when I said that I feel a bit uncomfortable saying this, but this is what makes so much sense to me. He said, no, that's how the Buddha taught. And he showed me the quote, and wow, it's amazing. You make your heavens, you make your hells when you pass away. So sometimes, people like to be punished for things they do. They feel guilty. They don't want themselves to be happy, which is, I think, is a crazy thing. But they can't forgive themselves. So that if you feel that you have done a terrible, terrible thing in this world, and you want to feel you need to be punished, you will send yourself to hell. And you will create the hell which you think is most appropriate for you. You'll create that, a mind-made realm. And the gates of hell are open. You can walk out whenever you feel that you've been hurt enough. It's a crazy thing to say that, but that's what people do. If you have that forgiveness and kindness and love, then you can walk out anytime. Same with heaven. You can stay there as long as you like. Please, sometimes people say, no, it's karma made, but you can keep making karma. So in other words, you can extend it if you understand how this mind works. These are also mind-made realms. So it's how much you add on to the realm in which you're living.
Thank you,
that's
Ajahn.
after death too, yeah.
Rohana, do you have?
Yes, please. 3 meditation-related questions, Ajahn, with various experiences. Sometimes when I meditate, I feel I'm caught in a whirlwind, mostly the head area. Is it something common, or am I striving, I'm not striving or focusing, just relax only? That is one. And the other one is, hi Ajahn, I want to ask, why do I tear during meditation? And the third one is, sorry, I just one more related one, Ajahn.
Okay.
From today, I have a question. When I did my meditation, my body was moving, like turning. When I had asked with spiritual teacher, he told me to stop my meditation. Then until now, I'm afraid to continue my meditation. What should I do right now?
Okay. Well, first of all, the whirlwind meditation, I would usually ask, was that a pleasant experience or unpleasant experience? And if it's an unpleasant experience, there must be some attitude you have towards the whirlwind. The nice thing to do is open the door of your heart to whatever you're experiencing, make peace with it, and just leave it alone. The unpleasant experiences in meditation, the best story is the story of the monster who comes into the emperor's palace story. So imagine there was this, let's change it around a bit, make it more from one times. There was this white policeman who came into the African's palace while the head African was away. So just in a shop, buying some pizzas or something. And came and sat right in the head's chair. And all of the other Afro-Americans in that building, they said to the white police officer, get out, you don't belong in here, this is our place. And the white police officer got bigger and more ugly and more violent and more sort of scary. And that made all of those black guards and friends and ministers get even just more upset and angry. Get out now. And the white police officer kept getting bigger and more offensive and more violent until the leader of this little group came in, and he took one look at the white police officer and said, "Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to visit me. Has anyone got you a cup of coffee yet? We've got cappuccino, we've got latte, we've got flat white, we've got..." And was so kind to this intruder that the intruder got less big, less ugly, less offensive, less violent, until everyone realized their mistake. They were giving this intruder they thought didn't belong in their place ill will and anger, and made him bigger and more of a problem. Instead, they gave kindness, until that white police officer became so kind, so soft, so gentle, that he left the hall all by himself. There's no reason to be there anymore. So that's the story of the anger-eating demon, changed again to our modern times. But it's the case that if you have anything like a whirlwind inside your mind, or turning when you're going around, I forget what the other one was.
It was, why do I tear during meditation?
Oh, tears. If it's wonderful, you're enjoying it, let it happen. A lot of tearing is just a form of pity, a form of joy and happiness. And if it's that joy and happiness, wonderful, let it tear. There's nothing wrong with tearing. And sometimes you get so much joy in meditation that you do get sort of teary-eyed. I get teary-eyed in some talks which I listen to, or going to places in India, like the Vulture's Peak. I always cry on top of there. Just can't help it. Just get so much bliss coming up, and it just makes me teary. So there's nothing wrong with tearing, nothing wrong with moving around. But the only problem is with the attitude, the response we have to those movements. If I was you, I'd just let it be. And be kind to it. Be aware, mindful, and kind, and see what happens. And usually those little problems, they get less and less and less. They just vanish away by themselves, like the story of the anger-eating monster. So I've teared up in meditation. Whirlwinds, I haven't had whirlwinds in meditation, I must admit, but sometimes you have nimittas, these visions in the mind going spiraling quite fast, but I'll leave them alone. If I try and slow them down, they get faster. If I just leave them alone and be kind to them, they slow down by themselves. And turning around, I've seen other people just turning around during the meditation. Just leave it alone. Just let the body disappear. Just watch your breath instead of the body, and then it just stops by itself.
Thank you, Ajahn. I don't see Angie at this point in time, so I'll ask another question.
Yeah.
Ajahn.
Yes.
Can you explain the practice of Yoniso Manisakara on the path to liberation, and also how you would describe Dhammanudhamma Patipada, please?
Okay, that's a very sort of profound question. Yoniso Manasikara means, it's usually translated as work of the mind, which goes back to the source. It means seeing where things come from. Their yoni, their womb, their why. And I give credit to Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi. In one of his books, it was his first book on dependent origination, on the Mahapadana Sutta. And in his introduction, he gave a very good explanation of the difference between Dhamma and the word Atta. Many people know in Sri Lanka the word Atta for Atthakatha, the explanations of the suttas. But when he was saying that this moment, what you're experiencing now, where it comes from, what causes it, is called Dhamma. It's looking back to the source of this experience which we have in this moment, the why. And the Atta is where it leads to. So Yoniso Manasikara is not saying, what will happen after this talk, but where did this talk come from? Why did this happen? What are the causes for this? And once we see the causes for this experience call now, we work back and see those causes. That's called yonisamanasikara. Finding out the why. Where did this originate from? And that's, that when one looks back why, where this comes from, one sees the dependent origination, the causality. There's nothing, something here solid, permanent, like an essence, which always has been, always will be. But there is just empty causes and effects, empty phenomena roll on, all caused by one thing or another. And that's us. So what's the other question? That's sort of Yonisamanasikara.
Can you please describe Dhamma Patipada, please?
Dhamma Dhamma Patipada. Probably won't give a very good description of it because I don't really follow that particular word or phrase that often, but it's just basically, I would actually say, I'm not quite sure, see the context of these words, because some of these words have different meanings in different contexts. And I would like to actually get the whole, even paragraph to understand what that really means. Dhamma Anudhamma. But Anudhamma means like along with. Dhamma along with the Dhamma. So I'd imagine it would be like seeing the source of things going backwards and backwards and backwards into where this comes from, seeing exactly how these things work, and understanding just this thing which we call which we assume to be a self. Why do we make that assumption? And how wrong is that? To be able to do all of that, the actual practice, all of these practices, whether it's Yonisamanasikara or Dhamma Anudhamma, you really do need a very strong, awakened mind. In other words, one which has been empowered by meditation. That's really important to emphasize here, simply because people know how to think and they can get information and ideas, and some of those ideas are crazy ideas. But when you have powerful meditation, you can cut through those very simply. It doesn't make any sense at all because the mind is very, very strong. And you understand with a strong mind like that, remember the Buddha penetrated dependent origination after emerging from the jhanas under the Bodhi tree the first time. And that gave him the power, the courage, the strength to see just what was the cause of suffering was birth. I was just talking with one of the nuns recently. That was a powerful insight. And sometimes people don't realize how powerful that actually is. People take it for granted, think that's easy, obvious. It's not. It's a powerful, powerful, powerful little teaching. And from that, just the whole of dependent origination opened. It was like the first crack, which the whole of Yonisamanasikara just unfolded. See how it works. But I hope I got that right, because the Dhamma and Dhamma, I don't use that very much, so I may have misunderstood that question. Yonisamanasikara is easy, yeah.
Angie?
Yes, Ajahn, there's a very interesting question here from an 11-year-old girl from Singapore. She says, my body feels very awkward. Sometimes I have this experience. I'm floating out of my body when I'm resting. Sometimes I can control it, but sometimes it all happens all of a sudden. I don't really feel uncomfortable, but do you have any advice for me?
Yeah, just leave it alone. When it happens, let it happen. You're perfectly safe. Nothing to worry about. And if you do actually float out of your body, after a while you get bored of it. So what? And also be careful, because it's not good to invade other people's privacy. So, if you are floating out of your body, don't go around and see other people's rooms and see what your brother is doing, your mum and dad are up to. That's their room and you should leave them alone. So be kind to them, and it usually disappears by itself after a while. But the other thing is, because many people get afraid, they go out of their body. It's a real thing. It's only a limited number of people, very limited number of people can do this. But if it do leave your body and you feel afraid of coming back, the fear will obviously often stop you coming back into your body. You get a bit tense. You usually come back in your body anyway. But if you want to come back easily back into your body, you use a technique which many hypnotists do. You do a countdown. You don't say, I want to go back into my body now. So I'll come back into my body after the count of 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, much slower than this. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now back in my body. A gentle way of coming back into your body if you happen to leave it.
And a follow-up question here is, I'm just curious about the past life. In some meditation, they said focusing can enable you to see the past life?
Yeah, it's not focusing so much. It's by, again, abandoning those 5 hindrances. Could allow you to see the past life. So you need a pretty good meditation, nice and deep meditation. And after you have come out from the deep meditations, you do the trick which I don't know where I got this one from, but it's very powerful. It works. You ask yourself, what is my earliest memory? And then if your mind is powerful enough, sometimes you can feel, you're mindful enough to know, wow, that was a really good meditation. My mind has really got some strength to it. So you ask, what is my earliest memory? And if your mind is ready, a memory will come up straight away. You don't pause. And the other thing, I didn't understand this at first, but when a memory does come up, it's quite clear. And there's no doubt at all that was you. And I thought, this is really weird. It's different than hypnosis, apparently. In hypnosis, sometimes people still don't really believe that was them when they can recollect a past life, even though the evidence is quite convincing. Yeah, that was you. But if it's like done after meditation, there's no doubt at all. And I realized, oh yeah, of course, that's because the 5th hindrance of doubt is totally overcome. And so it's like, you remember just what you were doing, what you had for lunch today. And, very clear, you know what you had for lunch. Now you know what you had for lunch on your birthday in your last life. No doubt at all. That's the amazing thing. But that's how it can be done. And people do it. They don't tell people about it because sometimes if you tell people about all these little tricks, sometimes people just want to take you into a lab and put a machine on you and just test it out. So in other words, you just become a freak rather than just a meditator.
Rahanta?
Yes, Ajahn, the next question is, Buddha's teachings clearly state that skillful speech in our daily life is so important. Can you please expand on the practice of skillful speech and the benefits in one's day-to-day work life, especially in the business world and in one's spiritual advancement?
Yeah, well, skillful speech is, first of all, not telling lies. So, because if you tell lies, of course, people don't trust you anymore. And it's worse than that because after a while, you don't trust yourself. So if you're talking to a teacher or even just trying to understand your own path in meditation or path in Dhamma, sometimes one deceives oneself. So that lying can become a very, very bad start to a deceitful life where there can be never any or very little growth. It's okay to be honest when you even make mistakes. And you tell your boss, look, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done this. I made a mistake. Hopefully you've got a boss who can understand that your honesty is a sign that you're trying to do much better. And you do much better, you're usually much more effective after admitting mistakes. Over here, I'm the boss of Bodhinyana Monastery, and that's one of our rules there. Every monk is allowed to make mistakes. And I've found they make far less mistakes that way because they're not stressed out and afraid and tense all the time. So the right speech of like not lying, but also like being kind to your fellow workers. Just a couple of nice words of encouragement. You can usually tell that a worker may be in a bad mood. They may have had a terrible mourning an argument with their wife, or maybe their kid is sick and they didn't know whether they should go to work or not, and they just went to work anyway because they need the employment. Get some kind words to the people you work with. And it gives a much more sense of harmony and people working together, even in an office or in a business, a corporation. Please look upon it like a football team. You're on the same side. The world is very competitive, and if you want to be successful, the infighting just doesn't work. Imagine like Liverpool or Manchester United, and the centre forward is on the inside right, whatever it is, but they're tackling each other to get the ball, and they're playing on the same side. It's crazy, but people actually do that in work. So to be able to have nice speech towards one another, which means you are getting some harmony and some strength as the group together. And what else? Kind speech. And just like kind speech to the people you meet in the train or on the bus. It's wonderful. Just sometimes a tiny bit of kind speech helps so much, and people remember that. I remember just, one of the, actually it wasn't me, it was one of the other monks. He was quite sick. He had to go to hospital for a few days. And I said to him, how were you treated? He said, oh, wonderful. They really looked after me. He said, well, you should send a letter of thanks to the Minister of Health. And he did. And he showed me with a big smile on his face. He got a personal letter back from the Health Minister of Australia. Thank you so much, for your letter of praise. It was because it was so rare that anyone would write to a minister. And so the minister got it and wrote back again.
You probably use complaint letters.
Oh, you always complaint letters. Yeah, of course. You know that.
Yeah.
It's like your plumber, I guess. Your plumbing plumber. Yes.
Oh, yeah, that right speech. That was true. Yeah, I praised the plumber. But I said
We're going to have some questions here, so I'm going to have to direct you.
But anyway, we got a deduction from our plumbing bill because of that.
So there's a concerned person here who's in business that he's worried about that. What if he doesn't plan? And if he plans, how much is too much planning that it becomes stressful? So what is that balance?
Okay, have plans, but always be ready to change them when you see other opportunities happening and other lines which may be better than yours, and you can actually buy into them. So don't always be fixed with the plans. All tentative plans always have to be tentative.
Thank you. So Rohanta, if you have one more question, we're gonna wrap up now. So if you have one more, you'd like to pose it now?
Yeah, this can be a bit of a challenging question to be facing it right, Ajahn, but let me ask this. Ajahn, I'm confused. Books like Birth of Insight shed light on how Burmese Vipassana practices developed and spread. Even though the techniques may bear results, this makes me question the historic validity of such practices. Elsewhere, we hear about samadhi as opposed to jhana. Are they the same? We also hear terms such as samatha samadhi as opposed to vipassana samadhi and dry samadhi, but have not found them in the sutras. Are there such distinctions? And if so, what are the differences? Please unconfuse me.
Yes, okay. The best way to unconfuse you is to get a copy of the sutras and look it up yourself. Lovely these days, because of computers, you can look up dry samadhi or sukha samadhi. You can look up vipassana jhanas. You can even look up the word vipassana. You can look up the word jhana. You can look up what did the Buddha teach. Because if I say it, then people who sort of say, oh no, Ajahn Brahm doesn't know anything. So I can't convince you, but the sutras are well explained, well translated. You can look at those, and the evidence is, it's so strong. There's so much of it that, samadhi, sama samadhi, right? Stillness, I call it stillness, is 4 jhanas. Buddha always says that every time, hundreds of times. Dry insight, can't find that anywhere. It wasn't taught by the Buddha. But that doesn't demean just the practices which are happening in insight meditation. Because people practice insight meditation, they come and say to me, Ajahn Brahm, I was doing an insight meditation retreat. I saw this beautiful light, these wonderful nimittas. Is that right? I said, yes, it's right, but don't tell your teacher. The way I'm telling you to stop. It just happens naturally. It's going to happen, whether you like it or not. So just keep on letting go. Make peace, be kind, be gentle, and then just see things happen. You can't stop them. It's nature.
Thanks, Ajahn. Angie?
Yep. Now, in the backdrop is the Westin Siri Bay Resort, which is where we were supposed to be in this period to the 17th of June doing the meditation retreat with Ajahn Brahm. Well, we had planned it many, many moons ago, and guess what? It ain't going to happen now. So Ajahn has kindly agreed to do it from the 2nd to the 10th of December, pending depending what is going to be happening during that time. But we remain hopeful as we have to continue with plans and be flexible when plans don't somehow work out.
Yeah.
So with that, Ajahn Brahm, would you like to just say a few words on how to handle a mind that has too many thoughts and feeling restless in meditation? Because that's what a lot of people experience when they're meditating, because they're trying too hard to become calm.
Yeah. It is, remember that your computer, and you'll probably use it in a few seconds, has got a delete button. It's my favorite button on the computer, delete. And I use that button in my brain because sometimes all those thoughts which I should be thinking about, actually I didn't realize it was 2nd to the 10th of December. I haven't got that down, so I just wrote that down, but I'll probably forget about it later on. So please remind me when it gets closer to the 2nd to 10th of December. But we just make plans, sometimes just for the day. And I'm a pretty successful monk, and people like the talks, but I don't plan anything about my talks. So I can just respond just to what comes up. And it's one of the things which I experience, which is real, but strange. That sometimes something comes out when I'm giving a talk, and I feel, wow, that's really cool. That's really profound. Where did that come from? And it's just like you let the Dhamma just come out, rather than trying to force it and plan it. That's precisely the way that I meditate. I don't aim for anything. Just stay in this moment. Just as I taught in the guided meditation, relax my body. And it's great relaxing your body. It feels wonderful. Then you relax your mind, and that's even more beautiful. The breath comes up, and there's hardly any thoughts. Nothing's happening. I enjoy that so much. We soon recondition our mind by experience to enjoy the power of a still mind rather than a thinking mind. And I say that as someone who's trained to think at Cambridge. Being silent is far more deep, far more powerful. And you learn how to do that. So you don't give things names. You don't worry. You relax to the max. And that's not a joke. Relaxing to the max is just a powerful teaching. Okay. You want some more? Okay.
And that's by letting go, not trying to achieve peace.
Indeed. Ajahn Chah, somebody reminded me of this old story of Ajahn Chah, but it's very short and wonderful, about the mango orchard, the mangoes planted by the Buddha. Lots of mangoes, they're all fresh and juicy, but there's only one way you can get those mangoes from the trees planted by the Buddha. Only one way. You can't climb the tree, you can't get a cherry picker, you can't throw things up, the mangoes won't fall. You just sit under the mango tree perfectly still. Just hold out your hand and a mango will fall in. Such is the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha. Ajahn Chah used to say that. You don't do anything to get enlightened. Otherwise, enlightenment never happens. Even jhanas, deep insights, you sit perfectly still and open up your mind with kindness, compassion. All these incredible insights. Where the heck did that one come from? It just falls in. It comes to you. You go chasing it, you chase them away. Well, the other story, quickly, is the monkey and the donkey and the carrot. You've heard that one before, obviously. How does donkey catch the carrot? Running after the carrot. Oh, when the stick tied on the back of the donkey's neck, string on the end of the stick, the carrot in front of the donkey's mouth, 2 foot in front. Donkey runs after the carrot, will never catch it, because when the donkey moves, the stick moves, the string moves, the carrot moves. And the donkey has been running after it so long, the donkey learns how to stop. Be still. And as soon as you're still, the carrot goes further away. But you continue being still, being patient, and then the carrot starts coming towards the donkey. And soon the carrot is 2 foot in front of the donkey's mouth, coming very fast, and comes right to the donkey's mouth. And the last thing the donkey has to remember is to say, "Carrot, the door of my mouth is open to you. Come in." And that's how donkeys catch carrots. That's how people become enlightened. You've been chasing enlightenment for such a long time. Stop. It will go away first of all, it seems, but be patient, it starts coming towards you. And then you're sitting down without any expectations, it comes so close. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Very good.
I invite you to close this with a blessing and
Okay,
all that to get your date of the next talk that you like to give.
I'm thinking about it. Anyway, I give a blessing first of all. Sabbaroga vinimuto, sabba santa pavajito, sabba veramati kando, nibuto chatuang bhawa. Sabitio vivachantu, sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavan, vantarayo sukhi digayugo bhava, apivadan hasilitsa nichak Uttapachalino Chattaro Dhamma Vatanti Ayuano Sukha Phalang.
Thank you, Ajahn.
So,
I don't know what you chanted, but I assume that it was good and it wasn't a funeral chant.
no, it wasn't a funeral chant, it was a marriage chant, it was just a well-being chant.
And it was a funeral chant, it would be in advance.
No, Chulamangala Sutta.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
So,
Okay, see
so
ya.
I've forgotten, would you like to give your next date?
I haven't been thinking enough. What day is it today? The 16th?
16th
30th?
of June.
30th? I think that's still before our age retreat starts. Am I doing anything else on the 30th? Crikey. Okay, 30th of June. We'll try 30th of June.
30th of June. Oh, lovely. Okay. It's a date then.
Not doing anything. Okay.
No. I'm busy that night.
Yeah, I'm free. Oh. Well, we'll do all our listeners. Please watch out for the link, and then we can let you know.
How about Sunday, 28th of June?
No, that day I'm doing something on that day. That is having a trust meeting for the nuns monastery in London, and a Kampa Bhikkhuni project meeting.
The 3rd of July?
3rd of July. That's a Friday.
Yeah.
I'll be in Nonamara Temple on the 3rd of July giving a talk.
True. Okay.
We'll do for the 7th then. It's still the Tuesday, and Ajahn is generally okay on Tuesdays.
But that's the age retreat.
Oh.
All right. So we'll have one next Tuesday instead, 21st.
No, next Tuesday I'm doing something else. What am I doing next Tuesday? 21st. I'll do it the 7th of July. The first time during the range retreat should be okay. It's only just getting started. 7th of July.
All right then.
Okay. Thank you, Ajahn.
Well, then,
What have I done? What have I done? Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rohan.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Angie.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.